Okay, this is Orlando Wilson. What I want to talk about in this video is a topic that's popping up quite a bit on social media. And again, it's something I've been asked over the years over what's more relevant, having experience or having qualifications. You know what, I'm old school. So I'll always say you need to have experience and then you need the education. It goes hand in hand. But these days, a lot of people are having issues, especially ex-military guys, when they're going for jobs. And they might have the field experience, the operational experience, and be overqualified for the positions they're applying for, but they don't have the education. Things that I'm old school, but when I first left the military and was going for work, etc., if anybody turned up, and I can understand it from the people I was dealing with, if anybody turned up back in those days saying I've got a degree in security, a PhD in this, etc., you know what, they'd have been laughed at. Because the old school way of thinking is, well, you can have all the paperwork in the world, but can you actually do the job? How were jobs got? Well, I still do things old school these days. We do things word of mouth. I'm not interested if you can put all the certificates down in front of me you want. It means nothing to me because I go off trust, experience, and whether I can actually work with you rather than box ticking. I've seen it, and it's funny, in a lot of Western Europe, US, etc., these days, you need degrees for some even basic security management jobs. And this is where a lot of guys, as I said, ex-military guys, are struggling to get work. Does it make sense to me that somebody needs to have a degree to be a security manager, etc.? Yes and no. I understand both sides of the story. But the thing is, people say, well, why do I need that qualification? Why do I need a degree to be a security manager? From my perspective, how I see it and how people have explained things to me over the years, is the reason a lot of the larger corporations want people to have degrees to work for them, especially in management positions. It shows that they're able to study, they're able to fit in, etc. And they're hiring managers that have gone through the same process, the education process, as the rest of their managers, which I understand. It's more to do with corporate conformity rather than can the people do the job or not. And you know what? I know a lot of corporate security managers who can't do their jobs. I wouldn't trust them, but they got to the positions they're in, usually due to ass kissing, etc., etc. That's the corporate world. That's the military world. People have to like you for you to get on, right? One story I've got from, well, one guy I spoke to a number of years ago now. Somebody put him on to me to talk about talk about work, etc. And this guy had a master's degree in something to do with the Mexican cartels, etc., etc. And I spoke to this guy and I said to him, okay, who did you talk to about your degree? I'm interested. We've out in Mexico. He had a master's degree, so obviously on paper he's an expert to deal with Mexico. It turned out that he never, from what I understand, from what he said to me, he only spoke to people in the United States. He never spoke to anybody in Mexico, on the Mexican side of the border. He never discussed anything, or never discussed things with anybody on the Mexican side of the border. So all he had, from my perspective, was an American perspective on the issues that's going on in Mexico. I spoke to him about a few things, active shooter stuff, etc. And again, he was off on that. He had the American perspective, the official American law enforcement perspective, not what I class as the realistic perspective. So this is somebody with a master's degree in dealing with the cartels. But how could whoever gave him that master's degrees, I would severely question their experience, because they never, how can I put it? How can you give somebody a master's degree on dealing with narco-terrorists if you've only spoken to people on the US side of the border? You've never spoken to anybody in Mexico, etc. So that to me raised the big question of, okay, are these people giving out the degrees, master's degrees, actually giving people, are the qualifications actually relevant? Or are people just, because somebody ticks the boxes, they're given a qualification? And again, this is back the same thing in a lot of the corporate world. They need to tick boxes for people to have the jobs. It doesn't necessarily mean these people actually know what they're doing. To me, as I said, we're old school. You have to have a balance. And I rate experience far more than I do qualifications. I've come across so many people over the years. They've got a lot of certificates, a lot of qualifications, etc. But I'm surprised they, how can I put it? They can go to the toilet by themselves. But if you're looking to get into corporate security, you're going to have to get the education. These days, if you want to stay, okay, my world's a little bit outside the norm, because we generally, everything we do is based on results. But if you want to get into the corporate world where, how can I put it? If you want to get into the corporate world, you're going to have to get the education. You're going to have to see what boxes need to be ticked and go and get those qualifications. Even though, from my perspective, a lot of those qualifications are BS, you know what? It's something you're going to have to do. The world has changed greatly in the last 30 years from when I first started in this business. But that's my perspective. If you don't have the qualifications, you're going to have to find other work for yourself, etc., and work with like-minded people. So to me, experience means a lot more than qualifications, but the corporate world, the mainstream world, wants those boxes ticked. You have to be compliant. So just my opinion. In the meantime, be good, stay safe, stay out of trouble. Follow me along on social media. I prefer X these days, but we're up on all the mainstream platforms. I have an array of books up on social media that talk about various aspects of the close protection business, kidnap and ransom, crime fiction, etc., etc. So follow us along on social media. You got any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. In the meantime, be good, stay safe, stay out of trouble. And I said, these days, if you want to be mainstream and in the mainstream corporate security world, you're going to have to get those qualifications. So bite the bullet and go and study, okay?